Welcome to JSA TV and JSA Podcasts, the newsroom for telecom and data center professionals. I'm Joao Marques Lima, and today I'm excited to be joined by two industry heavyweights to talk through how to empower the digital economy in one of the world's most populous countries. We've got Randy Brouckman, CEO of global data center operator EdgeConneX, and Jeyakumar Janakaraj, CEO of AdaniConneX. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing with everything that's going on in the world?
Joe, thank you for having us. So far, so good, Joe. I hope we are. I hope we're over the worst of it, and
fingers crossed.
The world is headed to a better place here in the very near future. It feels like we're heading the right direction globally. That's for sure.
Fingers crossed. And JJ, you're in Singapore. Things seem to be quite stable there as well.
Yeah, things have been managed well here, and I would also say that even in India. Well, of course, the numbers are going up, and but if you look at the way the vaccination drive is going on and the availability of and accessibility of vaccines is really being done very well. So I think that, again, like what Randy said, is showing us that we are directionally going in the right way. Of course, we've got to go through this tide, which is just unprecedented. But I think we've got the ray of hope because I think the vaccine is working.
We are finally getting some good news from all over the world, like Randy said as well, so especially in India. And then speaking of good news and speaking of India, I mean, you've recently had big news as well. You ventured into a joint venture, probably the largest data center development that we've heard of in India to date. Talk us through the joint venture. How was the moment created for you to come together? Where did the idea come from? Like, what was the first time that you met?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll take the first stab. JJ, you can fill in some of the blanks. Well, needless to say, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like two random people meeting in a bar and great things came out of it.
In the last 12 months, at least.
Yeah, that's for sure. We had at EdgeConneX, we listened to our customers, and it was very clear that our customers have big plans and ambitions in India. There were clearly some regulatory changes on the horizon in India. And frankly, the government there is just kind of doing a lot of the right things to build the nation and digitize the country. It was clear we needed to go there. It was also clear as we went over there and met with various real estate firms and looked in various challenges with getting power to sites and so on, that it was a market that we probably would not do well in simply organically. That what was going to be the right partner, and we met with a lot of people, kissed a lot of frogs, as they say, and had started discussions with Adani. Oh wow, it's got to be almost 2 years ago now, if not a little bit more, and advanced those discussions. We were introduced through an engineering firm that both companies knew. The CTO of Adani Enterprises of Adani Group introduced us. We advanced it. Didn't happen at that time. I think Adani explored some other options. Good news is it came back. In the meantime, we kind of continued to look at opportunities, and to us, it was an obvious choice of a great partner. When I look at Adani, they are clearly the leaders in infrastructure. In physical infrastructure, probably the leader. They are the largest green power producer in the country, far and away. They are the largest solar farm producer in one of the, if not the, in the world. They clearly believe in ESG principles, own ports and harbors and airports, and when you think of Adani, it's a company dedicated to bettering the lives and building the nation, bettering the lives of the citizens of India, and quite frankly, being a nation builder. And little EdgeConneX, with our meaningful footprint and reasonable success in really hyperlocal to hyperscale and powering the cloud and content and bringing that together with the enterprises that need it and the networks that drive it. I think we filled in some of the pieces for the folks at Adani. I'll let them speak to themselves. But at the end of the day, we can talk about how it really is a great partnership and makes a lot of logical and financial sense. But I actually think what made it work was both companies still have that entrepreneurial spirit at their core, right? Just let's talk less and do more, and not afraid to succeed, and look at obstacles as opportunities, and just a can-do mentality. And so culturally, believe it or not, we signed an LOI quickly, right? In a week or two, it was negotiated, and frankly, the 80-90% of the deal was hashed out in less than 30 days. So it actually came together quickly, but it had been a long courtship. And JJ, that's the history I remember. Feel free to rewrite it differently if you want.
No, I think, Randy, you touched on all the important aspects. And like you said, these relationships are very complementary. I think I would start from there. The entrepreneurial spirit, the passion to deliver, and also the vision of the marketplace, and the way we want to charter the course. We do not want to sort of walk the path that many people have gone through, right? We want to set our own course as well. And I think all those aspects are very common between the two partners. And to lead this management team to work on this joint venture is, again, I would say we are having a lot of tailwinds than headwinds, because both the partners are so sort of aligned and complementary in their skill sets, technology from EdgeConneX, the reach of the customers from EdgeConneX, strategic relationships for Adani with certain customers, land banking with Adani Enterprise, green energy from Adani Green. So, and then the engineering expertise that is available within EdgeConneX being complementary to what we have, execution skill set from Adani, because ultimately that's very, very key. And India as a marketplace, like we all know, that digitization is the name of the game. COVID has actually accelerated that. And there have been other triggers as well. Of course, a policy trigger, whenever it happens, it will trigger. But I think the demand triggers have been multiple, not just the policy aspect alone. And we'll talk about that as we go on. So I think it's an exciting joint venture, and true to the spirit of what it has been signed. It's a 100-100 joint venture of two like-minded entrepreneurs.
I mean, there's a lot there to dissect, but I really like the point of even the cultural fit, because we've seen some foreign companies coming into Asia, let's not even say in just Asia, and things didn't work out. So I think that's a very important aspect that Randy, you brought up, that I think a lot of companies actually forget when they get into these sort of joint ventures. And I mean, you can't go bigger than Adani. I mean, Adani is the biggest player in India. So when it comes to infrastructure, but I mean, the data center market in India is very, very exciting. I mean, the market is growing. You can't even call it a boom. I mean, it's an explosion. It's like an atomic explosion. It's going at a compound annual growth rate of about 23%, actually the same as China, which is much higher than the global average of about 7%. And JJ, I know you've already touched on some points that are driving the demand, and they'll be driving even more demand in the future. But what do you guys think are the reasons behind all this growth, and what are the future trends that you see will deliver on further growth that will also contribute to the success of your partnership?
Yeah. See, I think the first thing to look at is the size of the population that India has, right? 1.2 billion people and growing. And that's not having any controls like what China had in terms of one-child policy, etc., which is again the fundamental base there. But the more important thing to see is also the demographics. If you look at, we have 800 million people in India less than the age of 35. Okay, so you've got this young population who are willing to leapfrog on technology. A person who did not have a bank account 2 years back, post demonetization, is today receiving and paying everything on Google Pay. Okay. And this is not a one-off sort of a thing. And if you look at the way the fintech apps business has sort of exploded, those numbers are not showing 23%. Those numbers are showing 600% growth, right, in the last 2 years. And that is because there is this leapfrogging of this platform. People who didn't have banking and no formal banking have gone into Google Pay, okay, or the likes of it, Paytms and things like that, right? And the other day I was walking through one of the restaurants. People are selecting the menu there and then just scanning the barcode and then the QR code and making the payment on their mobile phone, right? Which even me, who has not lived in India for just a very short period of time, is seeing it as a technology shift that has happened not in urban India, but in the second tier, third tier, and in the rural India. So I think that's where the major difference is coming. It's not just the urban demand. It's not just the high-tech industries that are driving the demand. It's the entire population that's driving the demand. The rate of growth of data consumption in the rural India is actually higher than the rate of growth in urban India, which is one of those. I think this is the only commodity in India which is growing the other way, right? So it's a very inclusive growth. So it's not a top-down growth. It's a very inclusive growth. It's caught fire, so it's like wildfire. It's going to grow. But I think the more important thing is how do we provide the infrastructure to keep this growth, in the sensible quality and sustainability aspect. I think that's where, as AdaniConneX, we genuinely believe that we'll be able to mature that market and we'll be able to give the direction to that market. And therefore, that growth is not going to be just a spurt and it's going to just sort of then stay flat. But then there's going to be a year-on-year opportunity for us to grow our customers in a very sustainable way. So that's how I would see Indian market and approach the Indian market.
No, which makes sense as well. And Randy?
Well, wow, what is there to add? I think the drivers, I think JJ has hit on real well, and I think there's a commitment to the industries there, from the government there, to make sure this digitalization, this acceleration of the digitalization occurs. I guess what I have the lens and the perspective of what our customers are telling us, and there's some coaching I got early on from a real industry luminary, Christian Bellotti, was at Microsoft, and he said to me, we're having a dinner conversation. He looks up and he says to me, you're thinking 10 times too small. And he says, no matter how big we think it's going to be, no matter how much network capacity is going to be needed, how much storage, how much compute, et cetera, the rate at which the world needs it, is consuming it, the enterprises are utilizing it, is, no estimate has been, nobody has overestimated it yet, right? And I'm with JJ. I think COVID has accelerated some of this behavior for the better, right? There's a lot of bad with COVID, but there's been some positives in it, and it's democratized certain things, which I think is outstanding.
Yeah, I think the other interesting aspect as well is that we are not hearing just about the big urban centers, Mumbai, New Delhi, Bangalore. We are starting to hear a lot about different cities that we've never even heard before until digital adoption really kicked in. So that's very interesting. But we also often hear that it's challenging to build data center infrastructure in India. A lot of people have different views on that. But it is challenging for some companies to do it, even more so if you're a foreign company. But with the new data regulations coming into force, so like we had GDPR in Europe, like the US is doing, with new data regulations coming into force, India needs data centers more than ever. And as we mentioned, the explosion in digital usage is just going to put that even more up. How is your joint venture addressing those things?
So, Randy, shall I go first?
Yeah, go ahead, JJ.
Okay.
You're living it day in and day out.
Very well-behaved panelist.
Thank you. So I think the way we approach it is, like I said earlier, execution is the key challenge when it comes to any greenfield and organic growth options, right? So as Adani, the main thing that we are focused is on project execution and delivery. That has been our key focus area as we have built this organization itself. So whether it has been the ports we started building, whether it has been the power infrastructure that we have started building, the renewables business that we have started building. So I'll just give you an example so that it fits into this dialogue, and I'll then take it to specific to data centers. The entire renewable space was exactly like what we are today, talking about the first data center, building the first data center 5 years back. 2016, we literally had nothing in the ground working on renewables. Okay, we started this business flat out on the ground. In 5 years, and a lot of players came in at that time, just like how today the data center market is crowded, a lot of PE funds, a lot of money coming into India saying that we want to build renewable business into India. So a lot of promises being made in the marketplace, right? We started quietly as a company, and we started doing the job. 5 years hence, okay, when we look back today, what has the company achieved as a group, as a team? It has achieved nearly 5 gigawatt operational, 5 gigawatt coming into operations this year, overall close to 15 gigawatt PPA signed, okay? A market cap of a company close to 30 billion US dollars, listed entity, separately listed, the only listed renewables company in India, world's largest solar developer, okay? Vision of 25 gigawatt by 2025, okay? 20% stake in the renewables company as equity being taken by Total, which is an energy giant from France. So it again depicts that it is not alone the promise, but it is the quality of planning, execution, delivery, governance, and scalability, which is giving this opportunity. And India as a marketplace gives this scale. Okay, the key is to get execution right. So coming back to your question, I think we are absolutely in the same space. Coming to data center, we've got the vision, we've got the two architects, EdgeConneX and Adani, with the right skill sets, and we have to now put our skill sets into play, which is whether it is in land acquisition, project planning, designing, getting the contracts done, execution, and that's our core competence. The whole team has been into that space for decades, and therefore we live and breathe project execution excellence day in and day out for India. And Indian dynamics are quite different, right? Whether it comes to contractor selection, whether it comes to land execution, we do have advantages as well there, because Adani Enterprise does have land banks proactively being done ahead of what AdaniConneX wants. So that's again a positive for us, right? To do green energy, we do have options, whether we get into the market from players or we get it from captive energy generation, there are options. So I think to your question, the whole focus for us is how do we sort of use our skill sets in execution, and more closely in terms of monitoring the way we execute the projects, the way we plan and execute the projects, but also de-risking some of the key elements of land upfront. Okay, and therefore, as a team, what we are looking for is 2 years ahead. We are not looking for a year ahead, or like Adani has already bought, I'm sure you would have seen in the news, it's already in the public domain. They have bought a data center park land in Vizag. Okay, so Vizag, I'm sure nobody would have heard how it's going to get connected, but they're already planning how to get it connected, right? So they are planning ahead of the game, a second tier city or third tier city, actually, Vizag, not even a second tier city. So I think those paves a roadmap and gives that, headway for us as AdaniConneX to draw our customers to locations where we can give them scale. Like the plan there is to put 1 gigawatt of solar energy, okay, and power all the data centers that will be built there. So when you're having huge land of around 230 acres, build a gigawatt of renewable energy, and then you tell people, okay, now we are going to connect it through a submarine cable, and then it's going to have data centers. Okay, so that's the suite. Okay, but again, we are seeing it to sort of give some path-breaking solutions, and that's the benefit of having stronger parents on both sides. So that's an execution advantage that we bring on the table as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that was coming to my head as you were talking, it's you walk the walk, which goes back to the point that Randy made in the first answer as well. Randy, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, look, I think JJ hit on it, but look, at the end of the day, we've got bordering on 45 to 50 data centers in 35 markets, from hyperlocal to hyperscale. I mean, we created the concept of bring the data center to where the customers need it. That's kind of, we invented there. And know how to do that, and we've been able to work hand in hand with as part of AdaniConneX to make sure that skill set transfers. Both companies are absolutely unwaveringly focused on safety and how this is going to happen, right? We are and will continue to be the gold standard for how to do that each and every time. And so you just step back and think about it. Are there local nuances? Yes, there are on how to execute. Are there particular challenges around land and power? For sure. But that's why Adani, as JJ said, those are hurdles that Adani knocks down. Renewable power, the biggest and the best at this, right? We'll go build power where we need to build it from a renewable power sense. Clearly, they know how to build infrastructure, right? As you said, nobody's done it bigger. And in doing that, that means you understand the local challenges and the local nuances. And, what works in one market may or may not be the key to the other market, right? It's not all things are created equal, certainly in any country in Asia, much less any particular region or any particular city. But, at the end of the day, we stay aligned on our mutual goals, right? We want to deliver capacity where our customer needs it, when they need it, and kind of at what size and scale they need it. And we're going to do that on time, every time, safely and sustainably. That's it. And so, I think the partnership has complementary skills to do that and a proven track record. And both companies have proven track records. So it's nice to speak from experience, right? Here's what we've done. Not, trust us, we can do this, right? This has been proven.
Yeah, I love the point about adaptability as well, because that's, again, it's something that a lot of people sometimes forget when they go into other markets. So it's a really good point, again, when it comes to adaptability and cultural knowledge of the area you're stepping into. But you both mentioned energy. We know that Adani is massive when it comes to energy, not even just in India, but also on a global scale. Can we talk a little bit more about the power that's going to go into this data center? So the renewable energy that's going to go into the data center, how much have you got already available for it? What's going to be the first big deployment when it comes to gigawatts or megawatts or gigawatts? Talk just a little bit through the power part of the JV.
JJ, go ahead. And I think it even goes beyond just power in some cases, the sustainability. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So see, as we have discussed this, Adani's portfolio on energy is quite extensive, right? Whether it is in the renewable space, whether it is in the transmission distribution space. And as we all know, the energy market is quite regulated in India. So there is a very, strict regulated structure within which this whole regime needs to operate. It also opens opportunities, okay? It opens opportunities in two ways. One is the data center is a very stable load, okay? Except during the ramp up of the construction phase or the commissioning phase. It's a very stable load. So it is something that any power producer would love to connect this load to, right? It's like sitting there and then it's consuming energy every time. So it's a nice load to have in your grid. So it gives advantages. But the challenge always has been, one is reliability, okay? Number one, when it comes to certain locations. And number two is in terms of getting the amount of green energy that you need into that grid. And this is where the regulation and localization is very important in India. A lot of people think that, okay, Southeast Asia is all same. Some people think that India is all same. India is like Europe, okay? We've got 30 states, we've got like 30 countries. Okay, so there are 30 different set of regulations for energy, and there are interconnection rules between states. So you can wheel power between states, but you have to play differently in different markets. So I think the way we have structured is that when we are, say, for example, doing our Chennai data center, so there is a certain option for us. One is to contract with Adani Green and therefore get green electrons from Adani Green and then blend it with the energy that we will get from the grid, and therefore give our customers an option to choose from, whether they want 30%, 50%, or even more, right? So there are options for that. And then as we ramp up the volumes, then we have a very clear option to do a captive generation. So if they're going to have a 10 megawatt load, it makes it very simple. Our first data center is 17 megawatt. So whenever we're going to get 10 megawatt, whether it is a first year or second year, we can have our own captive generation, and then we are feeding green electrons into the grid anywhere in Tamil Nadu. Okay, whether the electron is coming from wind or from solar, or wind and solar as a hybrid model, and then we are drawing those electrons through the substation where we are connected. So there are mechanisms which allow us to do this. The advantage for us is that, like I said, again, the core competence and the expertise and the infrastructure is all sitting within the group, okay, to tap into. So it is not like we need to go to a third party and then learn these things, because these are quite complex, and then pay for every transaction, whereas this whole thing is sitting inside. So if we have to execute captive generation, so then there is a certain shareholding that the joint venture will have, and then we have to consume 50% of the energy that that generator generates. So assume that we put a 50 megawatt plant, we have to consume 50% of the energy that that location is going to generate, and we must have minimum 26% stake in it. And then not only we are getting the electrons, but we are also getting a subsidized regulatory price. Okay, so there is a certain regulatory discount that kicks in. So all these options are available for AdaniConneX, and that's exactly where, when we are giving a full suite of solution to the customer, it makes a very big difference, because we are not going to the customer just selling space. We are also selling energy solution, which is again a sustainable energy solution. And to certain bigger customers, when we are going for bigger locations, the advantage is we can also give them certificates to offset some of their carbon, footprints that they want to offset in countries like Singapore and Asia Pacific. Okay, because they are having certain requirements there, they can buy energy certificates from us and then offset. So they are getting not alone a sustainable solution for their locations in India, they are also able to buy some credits because the market's available to sell those credits to them, and then they can use those credits to offset in their other renewable energy deficient markets, be it Singapore, be it Japan, or be it Korea. So the customers are looking at that full suite of benefit in terms of the sustainability or energy that comes to us. So that is a entire plan. Of course, like I said, these things need to be planned for each location, for each data center, very specifically, and should be custom built within that regulatory framework of that state.
Okay, that's a good point. Actually, I guess a lot of us on this side of the world, being based in Europe, that we kind of lack sometimes the idea also to build throughout India. You deal with these almost different countries like the EU does with its member states. So that's very good. And Randy.
Wow. I think
there was a lot to take in, I know.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to add anything to how green power is produced, managed, and offered, and up through captive power arrangements. When you're talking with people from Adani and the head of AdaniConneX. But I guess what I can say is I'm going to tie it back to that culture fit. And it's interesting if you listen to JJ's words and the focus and the passion and the vision of what we can do for as AdaniConneX. You think about what we can do for the people and the customers in our planet. That really comes back to our culture norms, right? At EdgeConneX, we say it's real simple: take care of your customers, take care of your people, and take care of the planet. Frankly, the rest will take care of itself. Right? We don't put the shareholder at the front of that list. We don't put what's my bonus going to be? None of that stuff falls at the top of the list, right? Take care of your customer, take care of your people, and take care of the planet. And if you listen to how JJ answered that question, I think those norms just came all the way through it. So it just kind of drives home that culture fit we talked about from the beginning.
Yeah, it's creating a positive cycle of positivity almost. But also, I mean, of course, we talked about power, energy, that's huge, that's very important, climate change, sustainability. But beyond that, beyond green energy, how is the joint venture, how are the two companies going to help the local community? So what's your corporate social responsibility with the places where you're going to be building, and you're going to be digging, you're going to be building buildings? There'll be a lot of things happening. And then we know data centers, especially data centers, now becoming much more involved with local schools, local communities. What have you planned around that?
Yeah. So I think let me sort of give you an overall aspect and with some specific examples as well. See, the first and the foremost thing is local employment opportunities. Okay, so recruitment from local schools and local colleges, and then training them in a global development program. So we are working on a global development program where we are going to rotate talent, recruit them locally, train them globally, and then be able to come back and deliver a global world-class product in the local sense, right? So then there's a lot of ownership and on that. And the reason I'm sort of speaking with this level of comfort and confidence is because I'm a product of that. Okay, I was recruited from a very small town. If I tell you the name of the town where I come from, I'm sure you won't see it in the map of India. Okay, and then I was taken to Australia and the US, trained, brought back to India to build plants, build infrastructure, and then grow into leadership roles. So how do we create this talent and how do we create this ownership, right? And this acceptance within the community so that we are not just building an island of excellence where people see this data center and say, wow, this is a great building, right? That's just brick and mortar. But how do we build that flesh and blood around it, right? That the whole ecosystem is saying, wow, they created this leader from my son. You know, my son used to work in this company and today he runs a different company and he runs a different business. How do we create that entire ecosystem of support? Because that ecosystem of support is going to help you grow, right? Not just the data center business, but grow as a good corporate citizen around that whole ecosystem. So that framework is very much there. And that's right in the center of our recruitment policy, our focus as a leadership team, and commitment. More than focus, it's a commitment from the leadership team that this is something that we passionately want to grow talent. The next important thing is, see, the second to energy in India, the most scarce product, I would say even scarcer than energy, is water. Okay. So anything we do to preserve water, reduce the consumption of water is a very, very important thing. Recycling water. So we're looking at projects like in our Chennai data center, we are looking at a project where we can connect wastewater, which is coming as effluent from the nearby housing colonies. Okay, and then treat those waters and use those waters and actually even supply water. So we are net positive on water and not net negative on water to the community as well around us. So these are real projects that we are working on, and these are not stuff that we are wanting to do because these are feel-good factors. No, these are factors, like Randy said, takes care of the planet, takes care of the people, links the community with the larger good for the purpose of social responsibility, and then ties into the values of the corporate as well. So it's commitment, it's trust, building trust. So it's all that into that whole fabric. And then again, to be very truthful to the whole thing, it's not like, okay, we want to do it because, yeah, you know, it's written in the policy. So, and this is what I keep telling people, that, you know, for us, our commitment to climate change is not a document, it's our business model. Okay. So if I don't build green energy and supply green energy to my company, if I don't save water, it's again built into the business model. So the whole management team is incentivized to deliver that business model in the right aspect, to again, to be recognized as good corporate citizens. So that's the entire way we are building the fabric of this company right from day one. Because you will know, we are a startup. AdaniConneX is a startup, but we want to have this cultural fabric right in the core of it, so that when it grows and when it becomes 100, 200 megawatt and even bigger tomorrow, this core is actually going to be bigger and it's actually going to show up, and not that we need to put PPTs to tell people what we do.
Nice. I mean, bringing their flesh and blood out, which is going to help thousands of people, across the cities they're going to go to. And Randy.
Yeah, look, I think JJ hit on some of what we're doing inside AdaniConneX, right? He mentioned they're recruiting the right talent. We're part of building up that global education platform that JJ talked about. So we'll be able to take some of these, hopefully a fair number of the folks that they're recruiting and growing and training, and we're going to be bringing them up to our European headquarters and our kind of engineering center in the United States, and going to be able to give them that global training and experience, so that when they come back, they've had those opportunities to grow. This is a key part of it, right? I actually think as EdgeConneX, we're going to take advantage of the fact we've put this infrastructure in place to do so. And obviously we're working with the rapidly growing AdaniConneX team in the first wave through, but we're going to be expanding even our operations to be able to reach out and into the community and hire and train and create that global learning experience and local execution. So yeah, this isn't something we do because, you want the PR or anything. You do this because it's just fundamental to the business model. It's fundamental to the success, right? And by the way, and it makes sense. It just makes sense.
No, but it also goes back to that cycle of positivity, and positivity generates positivity and good results without having to push for it. And like JJ, you said as well, this is not a box ticking exercise. Has some business see it. So I think you made a good point. But talking about the future success, I mean, you've got 10 years to go with this first JV. There's a lot of work to be done. We've seen that throughout our conversation now. But are you guys dreaming already what JV 2.0 is going to look like in 2031, 32? What were you thinking?
Go ahead, JJ.
No, as if us talking about the 5 and 10 year plans aren't enough.
It's a bit of a futurology question, but let's try.
No, I think like we've all said, we've got a very ambitious first 5-year goal. The second 5-year goal to grow to 1 gigawatt is surely not going to be just organic. There is obviously going to be some inorganic consolidation. We all know that the market will consolidate, like every other business has happened. This market will consolidate. So we will have opportunities to consolidate there and add value to customers, even in those acquisitions that we might look at that point of time. But I would like to just reflect on two things. You see, the whole success is not going to be just because of a few people. The whole thing is going to be how the team is going to feel on that particular time, whether it is 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. Milestones can be in multiple, slots. But I think at every given point of time, the team's going to feel that they've been part of a story which has built an infrastructure deficit data center market into a very different place altogether in 5, 7, 10 years from now. And given the industry a very different shape and form, okay, and given the customers a sustainable solution which they actually were not even thinking of, okay. So we have defined the marketplace, but it is not to just take success as an individual or as anything, but it's a very collective thing. So nobody can just stand up and say, I did this, but it's like the whole team did it. We have created a set of leaders who can sort of run companies tomorrow, be it AdaniConneX or even come out and run other companies that EdgeConneX wants to run or Adani wants to run. So I think that satisfaction of creating that set of leadership, set of standards and benchmarks, which tomorrow people will want to sort of live up to. I think those are the kind of aspects that we would like to keep our focus on, and which absolutely involves whether it is the governance, whether it is the safety, health and environmental aspects around the whole ecosystem. So I think our focus is more going to be on how do we get that collective mindset to remain focused. And of course, there will be challenges down the road. We all know that any greenfield project, and if you want to do 200, 500 megawatt, it's not going to be easy. And there are going to be challenges. But how do we remain as a team, work as a team, support, and then not look at each other's faults, but sort of supplement each other's failures, to learn from that and also to learn from success. And so that's going to be our, I would say, aim to be looking at. And then when we look back, I'm sure there'll be a lot of satisfaction for a lot of us around that.
So there's some exciting 10 years ahead. Randy, what's your dream?
Wow. My dream is that we've grown a set of future leaders where in year 11, you're having this discussion, not with Randy and JJ and a few of the other folks that are on here, but maybe nobody on this phone or on this message today, or on this recording today, are the people that are talking about the next 10 years, if you will. They're talking about the next generation of cooling, of power, of integrated solutions. My guess is we'll have underestimated how much was needed in the first 10 years. I fundamentally believe that. I've already underestimated what we needed in year one, for goodness sake.
That's what I was going to say. That's probably take 1 or 2 years to realize.
I think we'll have probably looked back on it and underestimated what we needed in the first 10 years. Probably we'll be wiser to know what's going to be required in the next 10. And that's types of computing and storage and applications that some of us just aren't. I know I'm not clever enough to understand or think of today. But I think what success looks like for us is that there's likely a different set of people sitting in these chairs talking about AdaniConneX, right? Somewhere, sitting back there is an even more bald JJ and Randy. So
I can't get bolder that day.
Occasionally taking a phone call, for offering sage advice. But I think that's when we've succeeded, right? And they're there and taking the company and the industry and frankly, hopefully India to whole new places. And we do the work, we do the groundwork and the heavy lifting these first 10 years, and it'll grow even more in the second 10.
Okay. And Randy, staying with you, and I wouldn't be truthful to myself if I didn't close this off with an expansion question. You mentioned before you're present in 35 metros. You've got this massive expansion project going on in India now for 10 years, 2030. Where next? Where do you want to go next? What new markets are you looking at? Are you having discussions? Are you planning to get into, especially across Asia and even Africa? Because I think that's probably the last continent that you're not in. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I count India. So is Asia. Well, look, in this day and age, I'd like to go anywhere. I barely get out of the house. But no, on a serious note, we consummated the EQT transaction late last year, in November of last year, with the intention and mindset and deliberate focus and desire to grow and expand. Right, we part of the deal was we were going to be EQT's data center platform globally, and they've honored that every step of the way. They were going to put fuel on the fire, right, if you will, invest for growth, both organically and inorganically. It requires an EQT to be able to do a partnership of the size and magnitude that we've talked about here. We're going to continue to grow. I think this week or within the last week, I think we've announced an expansion into Barcelona. So you saw us enter Spain. We will go further into Asia. We have a firm mandate to do so. There's no doubt about it, right? India was number one priority for us. But there are other opportunities and frankly, customers asking us to provide the types of solutions we've been talking about here in some other markets. And we'll do that. We'll support them. We continue to see a lot of growth in South America. We continue to see a tremendous amount of growth in Europe, both in the traditional big markets, but also in new markets that are opening, right? We see big opportunities in countries like Poland, like Belgium, et cetera, where there's just, this insatiable consumption of compute and storage and the growth of data and the intelligence that can be garnered and utilized from that data. It's happening everywhere. And I think enterprises are becoming better, more nimble, more efficient as they migrate to these cloud platforms. And, as you said, success breeds success. As they move to their workloads to these platforms, I think they see success. They see better speed to market. They see more control of their compute costs, and it's just accelerating the whole thing. So you're going to see us growing on a number of fronts, both organically and inorganically. That's a little new for us on the inorganic side.
I'm curious now.
But we got but we also have a focused eye on certain, frankly, customer-driven demands to help support their needs in Asia and Europe, right? In particular, those two areas. And South America has boomed for us. I think we're
on our third, and now contemplating our fourth data center in South America. So no lack of growth there too.
Okay, well, sounds good. I can't wait to see what's next. What's next big expansion? The next new country that you're going to go into.
Country, stay tuned.
I definitely will. Well, Randy and JJ, thank you so much for talking about the JV and the Indian markets. I really like the cultural aspect and the adaptability and bringing in people into the business, not just being about the business. So I think there was a very good chat. And thank you to our viewers as well for tuning into JSA TV and JSA podcasts. And don't forget to check our social channels for more content. Until next time, happy networking.
Thank you. Thank you all.